So this second game was played on December of 2012, and it was played in the North American Open. I played in the under 2300 section. Whoo, very dangerous section. You know what? You're playing against ex-master, soon-to-be master, all the monsters. It's right there on that section. And how are you going to survive? Almost impossible. Chances, nil, nothing, zero. Right? But you have to do your best. You only challenge yourself when you play against the best player of the game, right? So here, this is like what I called a duel of the previous game. This is also a Grand Prix attack. And this second game was played. My opponent, I'm white, and my opponent is the number 2 in Utah. Number 1 is Grandmaster Caden Trott, right? Trop, I'm sorry. Number 2 player in Utah is Scott Trayman. If you heard about this name, these are the most feared players in Utah, right? So here I was white. The game followed in the footstep of my game against John Bryant. I was so happy because I can play the game, the moves on the early stage without fear because I already played it before. And that's why, class, it's very important that you always play your system. You play the opening, you play your repertoire, and don't change it. It doesn't matter if you know everything. You can be a jack of all trades, but you're not a master of anything, master of none. You might as well stick yourself to certain pet opening and pet line, but you know it thoroughly, you know it deeply, you know it very well. In chess, it's very important that you have familiarity of the terrain. Okay? Familiarity of the terrain is that the ins and outs of and the contours of the position, all the tricks and traps in that position, you already pay attention to and you already know them. So play your repertoire. If you play e4, you know, you follow in the footstep of great e4 players. Play their system. Here is the game. e4, c5. What did I play in the John Bryant game? Knight c3. Okay? g6 is probably the rage at that time because just like John Bryant, Scott also played g6. And after f4, bishop g7, knight f3 again. Also, as John Bryant did, d6. So you notice the very important feature of the position is the erection of the dark square strategy. So if it's being played by this strong player, it's probably a very good setup. So you may want to adopt it yourself. I actually played this as black. Right? This type of setup, dark square strategy. After d6, bishop c4. Knight c6. And here, instead of the d3 I played in the Bryant game, I'm the first one to deviate. I played castle immediately. Not much of a difference, but you know, sometimes it's good to deviate. I don't see the immediate need of d3 anyway. Now here, the difference on the John Bryant game, the John Bryant game, time control is game 45, delay 5. This is a 40 moves in 2 hours and 1 hour each to finish the game. So you see here a lot of time you can use for contemplating, maybe even meditation during the game. Maybe go shopping, or in Las Vegas you can go play some poker and put some money on the slot machine and come back and your opponent still didn't make a move. Am I right? This is the truth. So I said this is a long time. 2 hours. Well, you know what? Actually, when you are in the chessboard, 6 hours is not enough to finish a game. I used to bring my wife in my tournaments in Vegas, and she complained, "I'm not coming with you anymore." What are you guys thinking for 6 hours on a single chess game? Right? Have you ever thought that way? It's amazing, right? But so here, after castle, played e6. Okay, following. Now we're back in the John Bryant game, d3. Now, class, I want you to pay attention that F5, before it's played, you have to make sure, if you want to blast the opponent open in the center, you make sure that the king is already committed, either on the king side, so that F5 will be really working very well, or it's stuck on the center. So after D3, played knight Ge7. Now again, what should we do here? The subtle and cunning. Remember the move? Black has an idea, not simply to castle, but to play D5. Queen E1 prevents D5. Now for you to, because this is probably the second video, so after D5, for example, capture, and Black will find himself dropping an important pawn because of the pin created by Queen E1. Very subtle, very deep. I want you to, if you want to study this game and you want to apply it in your own chess game, well, do so. You have all my authority. You can have it. You can play it, the idea. Right? So here, you are permitted to play other players' ideas, okay? There's no copyright on them anyway. So after Queen E1, castle. After castle, only now, like what I mentioned, Black commits himself to the king side. What did we play in the Bryant game? F means forward. F5. So here is where it became different. In a game, in 2 hours for 40 moves, your opponent can find other moves that in game 45 you don't see normally. Here, Scott Trayman found a very good counterplay here. Now, it's probably in one of the rules that if your opponent is attacking on the flank, you have to attack in the where? Center. Remember that, tip number 1. If your opponent is attacking in the flank, the best response and the best reaction is counterattack on the center. He played D5. Okay? He said an eye for an eye. Okay? You want to attack, I'll attack you as well. He answered my question with another question. So now everybody have problem. And the Bryant game, I'm the only one who gives the problem. This time, both of us are problematic. By the way, the theme of this game is the importance of initiative versus material. Okay? Have you ever wondered all those 18th century games where everybody is attacking like crazy? Remember the game I showed you about Paul Morphy and about Richard Reti? Sometimes you wish that one of these days I will play that kind of evergreen game. Where here is the best effort in my prime years. Okay? And this I consider as my best game. Okay? I will show you why. Because you will see here, White doesn't care about material things. He disregards material and considers the importance of time and initiative. So here I wanted to show you, and pay attention, after D5, very strong move, where should we go? Bishop B3. You will notice a very curious position. The light square attack was faced by another light square attack. So you will see here that at first glance it looks like a checker game. Okay, so what happened? White created the tension in F5. Black reacted by creating a tension on D5. So everybody are now in a very tense position, right? And these are the moments in chess that a lot of you will probably give in, and those who have strong nerves will prevail. Very difficult to assess this. I mean, you need a computer super strong to figure out how do we continue here. It looks like a mess, right? And it looks like there is a real problem in the Middle East. There's always a problem there, so forget it. So here, after Bishop B3, what did Black? He captured he is the first one to remove the tension. How should you recapture? There's several ways here. I was contemplating f6 sacrifice, luring the bishop out, and then capture with the knight. I said, but that gives the square d5 and f5. For example, just for example's sake, pawn, bishop takes, and after knight takes, and after the bishop simply comes back, you actually handed to your opponent the f5 and the d5 square for his horses.
You can't take c5. Can't take c5.
Oh yeah, if you capture c5, this is the problem.
Right.
You have a check on g7.
There you go.
Right?
And then bishop to e.
And bishop e3, you have bishop takes
Okay.
b2, and it's probably suddenly the bishop will ruler of the 7 C's, and the whole diagonal is owned by him, and you don't want that. So that is one of my plans. However, I saw that I don't really like the idea. Instead, I said I want to maintain a pawn in the center, because having a pawn in the center prevents the keeps the square f5 and d5 under careful surveillance or watch. So pawn takes pawn. All right. After d4, now he captured ef5, expecting to recapture with the pawn. And after either bishop takes, knight takes, black is well and okay in this position. Actually, he's close to winning. There's no more threats. Now, upon closer look, class, you will notice that this game is similar in the John Bryant game, except there is no more pawns on d3. Almost the same in d6. And what was our move in the John Bryant game? Bishop g5, or the rival of the queen introduced several ideas. Bishop h6 again, your knight g5 again, bishop g5, and so on and so forth. In one move that makes it an excellent move, it introduced a lot of idea in the position. Minor difference with the d pawns are all out compared to the Bryant game. So here, after queen h4, he played c4. He said, let me return my pawn to you and place your bishop in a precarious position which is undependent. So, for example, what happened is bishop takes. That's basically force. Now, later on, if white plans to remove the knight from f3, queen d4, check, and the bishop is snagged. Correct? So, the sacrifice was justified in this situation because it brings or lures your opponent's bishop into an undependent square. Understand that? So the type of sacrifice is provocative, right? And after bishop takes c4, here is his idea. See, now he's trying to remove the knight that defends this square. After knight e5, knight takes e5 first. Bishop takes e5. Okay, let's pay a closer attention to the position, class. Now, you see what happened. This is not a curious case of knights because there's no more two pairs of knights. All right, this is different from the Bryant game. The theme of this game is the importance of time, or the essence of time in chess. And here, time is of the essence that material doesn't matter. What will happen here, we lure the bishop out of its hiding place. That means this bishop is quite susceptible to any form of attack. Am I right? Now here, find a move for me for white. Knight take after knight e5, bishop takes e5. We have to avoid the queen d4 check. So, if the first game that I show, we always go back to c4. This time, let's go back to b3. Okay? Because we want to avoid the queen d4 check. King h1 will probably do the trick as well. But that still keep the bishop undependent. So might as well. Any question? Go ahead.
Why not knight to d5?
Knight to d5, black simply exchange, and the queen is then free here, and we are forced to exchange. And here, class, you have to understand that 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Black will only his game will become freer. It become free, right? He has got himself out of the entanglement that he was into. Remember, his bishop is still there on the original square, and we have to keep the forces, black's forces, bottled up for a moment in order for our attack to play. Okay, so bishop b3 was played by me, and here Scott played after bishop b3, fe4. So this is the right time to capture the pawn. If I recapture, he has this knight d5, and black's position is free. He removed himself of the tangle that he is himself. The bishop's diagonal is now open. So you see, he was here comfortable. At this around this moment, Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez and Grandmaster Caden Trop at that time is still an IM, show up on the board and watch the game carefully and very interested in our game. Now remember, Grandmaster Caden Trop was number 1 of Utah, and my opponent is the number 2, Scott Treyman, right? So here they were watching together with Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez. They were watching, and they look at me and they look at the position. The game is good for black. Okay, but looks are deceiving in chess. So is in life. Right? So after fe4, he introduced this idea. What should we play? Bishop h6 doesn't really help much. Let's create a pin. Bishop g5 pins the knight. The difference here on the Bryant game here, because of the absence of the d pawns, black can simply sidestep the pin so easily by anyone? What's the best move after bishop g5? Get out of the pin, and how? With gain of tempo, queen d4 check. He simply solved the pin problem, the pin question immediately. King h1, and now the knight jumped with a vengeance in the position. And here is the beginning of what transpire is either crazy, outrageous, or are you nuts? Are you a madman? What happened to you? Because here, the first of a series of sacrifice took place in the game. Rook takes knight. Like what I said, white disregard material here and doesn't care about his forces as long as he kept all the needed ones. You need only certain key players in a game. The ones that are not needed, make them sit down. Okay? So here, rook takes knight, because the knight on f5 is very strong. Is it worth the sacrifice? Yes, any time of the day. That knight spells disaster for white's position. There's no more attack after that, unless you introduce something else. And here, I found rook takes f5. And here, Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez and Grandmaster Caden Trop show up in the board and bewildered and wonder, what the hell? What happened here? Rook takes f5. What is this? They look at me, I look at them, they look at the position, and they shake their head. You're a goner. Okay, I'm a goner, at least on paper, but not see on the actual result of the game. So rook takes f5, bishop takes f5. Opponent stood up, went all over the place, walk around, shake people's hand like he's running for Congress. It's already winning. I mean, that's what you do when you're winning in the position. And I was there trying to prove, what kind of nonsense did you do, Ruben? Now what? Okay? Now we have to make that rook takes knight sacrifice of the rook for a knight justified. We have to consider the position of the queen. The queen, if you place a rook here, gain of tempo, the queen actually have only 3 squares to go. 1, 2, and 3. The limited number square could create a problem for the defending side, because for you as an attacker, you already know where the ball will land. Am I right? I wish we can do that in the Russian roulette. We know where the ball will land. Right? But no, here, after rook d1, there's limited. If, for example, queen b6 or queen b4, the arrival of the knight here will spell disaster.
That's the end.
Knight e7 check, and after here or here, there's a checkmate. If here, there's a checkmate. Very tricky, because the bishop gets out of its cave. There's still, even though his presence is there, the creation of a hole on g7 creates some kind of tricks, right, in the position, tactical ones. So here, very careful. There's only one square actually for the queen, c5, right? However, this invites the
Rook.
rook lip,
Yeah.
the attack of the rook on the fifth rank. Rook d5, the invasion of this rook here in the center of the board creates a threat to the queen and the bishop. The bishop that defends the queen side, king side, the queen that protects the bishop, the queen has to flee to find itself a place of refuge, and at the same time defends e5. And where is that? There's only one square.
Right.
Where is it?
C7.
c7. And now comes the mark of a delusional man. Here, Caden Trop was there, Alejandro Ramirez, both grandmasters, when I played the second rook sacrifice of the game. Rook takes bishop. And they all look at me and they start calling other players, this guy is crazy. Go call the mental hospital or call the whoever. Have to lock up this guy. This guy lost his mind. Are you mad? Why are you giving up another rook?
I see it.
Queen takes.
Bishop f6.
What was the justification of that move, of that sacrifice, class?
Bishop f6.
Bishop f6.
Knight d5 is coming.
Where does it go? Of course, your idea is to play queen h6.
But
So the queen has to have a careful watch on this bishop. In case queen goes here, the queen can capture the bishop. So he played queen d6, right? Now remember, if the knight move, we're in danger of getting checkmated ourselves. This is attack and counter attack. So what should we play?
knight d5.
We bring another piece into the game, introducing the threat of knight e7 check
Yeah.
and mate. It's a mate in one.
You just win the queen. He just takes.
Well,
Yeah.
this is very dangerous. So black has to create escape route. All right. Now is that. Maybe rook e8 is playable, but after rook e8, don't you think I have queen h6?
So you should just play h5.
So he played h5. Now what does it remind you? It's close to the Bryant game. There's a pawn on h5. All right. So here is the position class at hand, and it's very promising for white. The sacrifice to really be promising and given a triple exclamation point, the game has to be won, right? Or else you're really a madman if you lost this game. It's a type of game where you all hell break loose, right? You burn all the bridges. You are in the point of no return. You already burned everything. You already given up everything. It might as well work. So what should be done here after h5? Any good ideas there?
How about queen g5?
Queen g5 is playable, but after king h7, that was the idea of h5. Neutralize the arrival of the queen on h6. However, here, remember, we have a Scud missile. We make sure the Patriot works side by side with it. We now introduce a very dangerous threat of check here. and the king will find himself dancing on thin ice. Right? A very precarious position of the king. The check, when it arrives there, it spells doom in black's position. Now, what about the rooks that he has all this time? Material superiority. They're not at work. Worthless at best. Right? So here, after bishop c3, what should black do? He cannot lift up this pawn. I wish he can, because I just capture it now with the other bishop opening up. The two bishops are very menacing in this position. Their power are really shown in this game. So after bishop c3, king h7. Now class, here, after knight f6, it's probably enough, but I didn't see a win. In order for the win to really happen, right, because it looks secured, we need to soften up the position. But what else? I already thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, against my opponent. Is there anything else to keep the fire burning in the position?
Bishop b4.
Bishop.
B4.
Black to move.
Oh, black.
White to move. White to move. Queen g5 is ruled out. There's not much of a threat. Maybe queen g5. That's probably a good move. Right? After f6, he's probably willing to part with one of his rook just to neutralize, because there's, for example, f6 here, rook knight takes check, and guess what? After rook takes, we might as well resign, because no matter how I recapture, there is a queen d1 mate. For example, queen takes f6, queen d1 mate, and all of our plan of grandeur disappear. Right? No, it's not good. So black has counterplay based on the back rank problem. So we have to solve that problem in the back rank. In order for us to relieve this knight of his position of d5 and not allowing the queen to create a back rank mate, we have to find a move that removes the back rank problem, creates a threat, and further creating problem to our opponent. Here I found
G5.
G4. Now you see here the justification. The king is now safe. If there's a check, king can go G2. However, black cannot capture the pawn because of the pin, and he has to capture this pawn, because if he withdrew, for example, bishop here, what's going to happen? We have a check. And if king h6, we have a possible queen pawn takes, or even h6 check. And after king here, we have a family check, and it's over. The g4, which is the quiet pawn in the position, comes out on the right time. Right? And after bishop takes g4, it has to be captured. Now the arrival of the check on f6 creates an attack on the bishop. Because now where does the king go? It cannot go here because of this check. It has to go out of range of this dangerous bishop. You see now the coordination of white's forces, the bishops, the knight, everything that I need in my position. Right? I get rid of the ones that I don't need. If you own a company, get rid of the people you don't need. Keep only the one that works. All right? Good thought. Okay. So king h6. Next move.
Knight takes bishop.
Knight takes bishop. See, you gain a. Finally, white is gaining the fruits of his hard labor. Is it a genius or madness? Right? So king h7. Knight f6 check again. King h6. Now here he's probably happy just to repeat, because there's really no clear way to find a checkmate. So I just removed this pawn here, queen takes e4. However, because I said the rook cannot go to e8, it can only go to c8. Right? The check is no longer very strong because I have king g2 and there's no further check. So even though the king is exposed, we are safe. All right? So after queen takes e4, RAC8. That rook move introduced some kind of sacrifice on c3, and the knight will be left and free. What should we play here? After RAC8, queen e3 check. Because if he plays king g7, again we go back to this theme. So he has to force himself to advance the pawn, a g5. Now that creates a softening in black's camp. We now have a fresh axis, and after queen e4, we introduce a what? A mate on h7. Rook defends the mate. However, the rook left this pawn and free. Bishop takes. f7 creates a threat of mate on g6. Okay? So what should, how did black play here? After bishop takes f7, queen to c6 creates a pin. I cannot deliver checkmate. So what should I play? Bishop d5. Okay. After bishop d5, queen a6. Can you believe this move?
Yeah. Mate one.
This move threatens mate in 1. Very dangerous player, right? They don't really give up easily. I mean, Scott Raymond is about 2200. So after queen a6, I have to watch on the mate, either probably king g2. But let's introduce at the same time attack and counter attack, or attack and defense. Defend the f1 mate and create a type of attack that introduces checkmate. Queen
Queen to f3.
f3 prevents and attacks. Okay? Now after queen f3, he sacrificed the rook. But it's too late. Queen takes. This is force. Check. There's his force. And now, mate in 1, find it.
The knight.
Knight g4 is mate. The position is picturesque, class. The rooks, the queen, and the minor pieces. But you see the coordination and harmony. I hope everybody enjoyed the lecture this morning. I hope that you learned something. Okay, see you next time. Now that will be probably our best YouTube moments. All right?